Hello horror fans, thanks so much for clicking on this video. My name is Chris. It's been a while since we've talked about the upcoming Texas Chainsaw Massacre Reboot sequel. This was a movie that was supposed to originally be headed to theaters, but because of the pandemic or maybe some behind the scenes stuff, it's instead going to be released on Netflix. And now we know February 18th will be the exact day this movie will drop. Not only do we have our first look of a silhouette with Leatherface, along with some of the cast members, we have some plot details that have leaked online that make this movie sound really wacky and weird. Maybe this will turn out good, but maybe not. I'm gonna let you horror fans determine that yourself, so be sure to leave me your opinions down below with the first looks of this Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, along with what you think of some of these plot details. Alright, so just to bring you up to speed, since it has been a while since we've talked about this reboot, it is being produced by Fede Alvarez. Now, when we first heard about that, we all went wild and crazy because Fede Alvarez is the same man who rebooted Evil Dead, and that movie turned out amazing and is also the person who made Don't Breathe. It sucks that he's not the one directing it. Instead, they handed the directing duties to Andy and Ryan Tohill, but after a week or two in filming, the studio was not happy with what they were seeing so far and let the directing pair go, and instead will now be directed by David Blue Garcia. This movie will be taking a lot of inspiration from Halloween 2018, where it will ignore all the other Texas Chainsaw Massacre sequels and just be a direct sequel to the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre from 1978, and it will be set in modern day, so we'll be getting Old Man Leatherface. So now with that out of the way, let me show you one of the first photos released with the cast members involved in this film, and right off the bat, it pretty much looks like your typical young adults that'll be starring in a horror movie. But thank you to Twitter user viewer Annan, who has become very reliable with leaking out some information involved with upcoming movies. He's someone who's become very reliable lately and has given us correct information on other movies, so we can pretty much trust what he's saying here. And here he gives us a general idea of what we can expect in this movie with a couple of plot details, saying that the Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, in which a bunch of entitled liberal kids buy a town in Texas, evict the residents, and the audience is supposed to cheer as Leatherface murders them. Oh, and the final girl is a badass because she's a school shooting survivor. Now, just like you and me, I thought maybe he was joking and just having some fun trying to pull some people's legs on Twitter, but no, he clarified that he's telling the truth, even giving some more details, saying, all true, one of the girls forces Alice Krige, one of the actresses involved in this movie, out of her home. Leatherface has been living with her since the original movie. She has a heart attack and he rides with her in an ambulance. When she dies, he goes nuts, and again, the killing starts. Now, a couple of thoughts on that before I show you the first look of Leatherface. I think those are some bold decisions for a Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot. I mean, as far as horror icons go, like Freddy Krueger, Scream, Chucky, the Texas Chainsaw Massacre good old Leatherface is kind of in a tie with Michael Myers about how many times his movies have been rebooted and retconned with so many different timelines and prequels. And in my mind, other than the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre, the only other ones I really enjoy a lot are the 2003 version and the 2006. Those are still to me one of the best Texas Chainsaw Massacre movies, and they just have not come close ever since. And with these plot details, it just does not sound that exciting to me, having one of your characters be a school shooting survivor. Like, I understand that's kind of relevant in our time, sadly, but it also just feels in poor taste. Also, the idea that the movie's basically about a bunch of rich kids that buy out this land in Texas, and that's kind of where the conflict begins with them and Leatherface. I kind of don't mind that, but right off the bat, it already makes the main characters unlikable to me, because why would you kick people out of their homes? Nevertheless, moving on to the silhouette and first look of Leatherface himself, this is what he's going to be looking like, and I gotta admit, I'm a little surprised because this boy looks kind of slanky and slim. Maybe the boy is just finding the correct angles like I like to do sometimes, and you can't really see his bigger belly, but from this view, Leatherface does look a little smaller than I expected. Nonetheless, it's still badass to see him in this silhouette with the rain and the chainsaw in his hand. The thing that could really save it and make this thing creepy is if he gets his Leatherface mask. And since this is supposed to be the same version from the 1970 movie, I wonder if he kept that old mask with him all this time and then decides to bring it back out when he decides to go on this kill spree. As I'm showing you this, other weird details that viewer Annan has revealed about the movie, he says, a few people have asked, and yes, there is a scene in the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre where Leatherface massacres kids on a party bus and it's live streamed. I don't know what it was about that statement. Maybe that could look visually amazing in the movie, but I just get really corny vibes off of that live streaming Leatherface killing some kids on a bus. Feels like they're trying to be a little too hard to modernize it when really we just want a good story story with Leatherface and why you decided to pick up the story like 50 years later. The last thing I'll leave you with, I'll just say minor spoiler warning. It's not anything I think that ruins plot details of the movie. It's just the only thing that I think is a cool sequence that is going to go down in this movie. So I'll put a timestamp to where I stop talking about it so you can skip to then. But he also reveals, anyways, I can't leave without telling you that in the new Texas Chainsaw Massacre movie, there's a scene where Leatherface runs at Sally. She shoots at him with a shotgun and he blocks the shot with his chainsaw. I know I was just talking about corniness and cheesiness, but just the idea of Leatherface running and blocking a gunshot with his chainsaw? Yo, maybe this movie will be badass. And if you're wondering who Sally is, this is their attempt of doing the Jamie Lee Curtis thing where they bring back the final girl from the original movie. She will be part of this film and introduced somehow, and I guess she'll be the thing to save the kids by the end of it. Look, I'll just be honest with you guys, I had a lot of high hopes for this Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, and while I'm still gonna go in with an open mind and hoping I love this movie, I think there's a clear reason why when this movie was finished and the studio saw it, they said, yeah, I don't think we'll make our money back if we put this in theaters. Netflix, how much you gonna give us? Because 9 times out of 10, that's the reason a studio sells their movie to Netflix, because they know they probably won't make their money back in theaters. So the safer bet is just to get some chunk of change from Netflix, and people will stream the hell out of it. So this is where I throw it off to you guys. These details about the latest Texas Chainsaw Massacre reboot, do they excite you? Do they worry you? Where do you fall? Anything, everything, be sure to leave your thoughts down below. Don't forget to like, subscribe, follow me on Twitter at 3C Films or on TikTok at 3C Films. But as always, I'm Chris. Take care.